Tamara. If only I knew that change, as they say, was truly constant, maybe my story would have been different. If I knew that he wasn't my Tobi any longer, maybe things would have played out differently. Sometimes, the love we crave is better off being lost and ignored rather than igniting it and giving it a second chance. And this is my story. The sad story of how I became the Queen of Vengeance. The atmosphere at the airport was busy, filled with passengers hurrying to catch up on their flights while I stood with my fiancé Deji, who was also waiting to board his flight to London. "I'll miss you, my love," I said, looking straight into his eyes. Unspoken emotions engulfed me as I rushed into his arms before the tears welling up in my eyes would roll down. "I'll miss you more, my sweetheart." Deji's baritone voice echoed in my ears, carrying a weight of unspoken emotions. It was the first time that we would be so distant from each other. I didn't know how I would be able to handle my loneliness, staying apart from the man I wanted to get married to, even though it was just a 1-month official trip to London and he would be right back in my arms. For the little time we had at the airport, we created memories, taking pictures together and making promises. "I'll be back before you know it." Deji's soothing voice calmed my aching heart, right before he headed for the terminal, as I stood there waving my last goodbye to him as his back faded in the distance. Just as I was about moving to get a cab that would take me home, like an orchestrated fate, our eyes met in the crowd. There he was, standing right before me, Tobi, my teenage love. Everyone had thought that Tobi and I would end up getting married, but I got my first heartbreak when his family relocated. Tobi and I lost communication, and that was how our once beautiful young love story ended. And now he was standing before me, a grown handsome man, with visible muscles and fine patterned beards. "Hi, it's been a long time." Tobi's electrifying voice broke the tense and stare between us. "Yeah, it's been a while," I swallowed hard, looking away from his soft gaze. We spent the next few minutes in a flash, going forth and back on old-time memories of secondary school days, and before we departed we exchanged contacts. That night, something inside of me ignited my long-lost feelings towards Tobi. But I ignored the feelings, they were not relevant after all, and I was about to marry the love of my life. Tobi and I were history, and even though I loved him so much, I wished to bury the past. A couple of days later, Tobi called. "Hello, can we meet up and maybe talk over a glass of wine?" He requested. I could have simply declined the invitation. Instead, I accepted to go on that date, knowing that my feelings for him could come back once I set my eyes on him. I didn't hold myself back to go on a date with Tobi. I enjoyed the food and drink we had. Tobi was still that sweet boy, his innocent face was just enhanced by beards. I was simply just enjoying myself and having fun, but everything changed when I noticed Tobi's gaze. His eyes carried desire, flames of an unquenched passion that had been buried for a long time, crawling out to be watered and quenched. "I still love you," Tobi said to me passionately while holding my hand, but that was not what I wanted, even though I desired him to. So without giving him a reply, I withdrew my hand from him, took my bag and left him. From that moment, I continued to ignore his constant texts and calls. I really tried to be faithful to Deji, who had never spoken to me ever since he flew out of the country 3 weeks ago. All efforts to contact and reach Deji were unsuccessful. But I still didn't give up. He was my future, and I was willing to wait for him to reach out to me. My wait to get a call from Deji turned from days to weeks to months. It has been roughly 3 months and I still haven't heard from Deji. Deji, who had promised to return to me after a month. Even his office in London said that Deji never reported on duty. I couldn't think properly. My imagination ran wild. Maybe Deji had a white fiancé and he had chosen her over me. My thoughts played on my emotions. Was he dead? I asked myself with no answers. I became frustrated and needed distractions to clear my head and get me thinking straight. So I went to the bar. In my frustration, I drank too much and got drunk, and that was how I dug up the emotions I had once buried. In my drunk state, I took my phone and dialed Tobi's number, requesting for a meet-up with him. Tobi and I met up that night, intertwined our souls and bodies, igniting the passion that had been buried. That shared moment made me feel like Tobi was the ideal one for me. I felt guilty and also not guilty at the same time. Deji abandoned me first, and I had nothing to be guilty about, I thought to myself. Everything happened like a flash between Tobi and I. Just 1 month after our passionate adventure, Tobi proposed, and without wasting time, I accepted his proposal. I thought I knew him, so I accepted his proposal. I was sad that I couldn't do life with Deji, however, I was happier that fate brought Tobi back to me to continue our unfinished love story. Everyone in my family, my mom, dad, and siblings, all frowned when I broke the news about getting married to Tobi in a month's time. They warned me to be cautious. It's too early to get married to Tobi, you've only just been together for a month. But I threw caution to the wind. I knew my family didn't want me to rush into marriage with Tobi without getting to spend some time to know what his character was like as an adult. However, I was convinced I wanted to do life with Tobi. After all, Deji abandoned me. As for Tobi, I knew Tobi since childhood, so marrying him wouldn't be a big deal even though we've been apart for over 10 years. 2 months down the line, it was my big day. Tobi and I were at the altar exchanging our vows. Everything went smoothly and we were joined as husband and wife. I could see the unrest and unease on the faces of my parents and siblings even though they put on smiles. On the other hand, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world, so happy, but everything changed when Deji showed up in the crowd. His eyes held so much expression, pain, disappointment, and heartbreak. My once happy face downed in anxiety and confusion. What was happening, I couldn't fathom. What I was sure of was that I was already married to Tobi and I couldn't turn back the hand of time. And there Deji was heartbroken, as he turned his back and briskly walked away holding the pain in his heart. Caught in a web of uncertainties and unclarity, my life with Tobi started. What I had imagined would be a blissful marriage, filled with love and fulfillment, became my nightmare. Maybe I truly wasn't patient enough, or maybe I should have just listened to my family. 2 months into our marriage, Tobi's lovey-dovey attitude vanished. He became so cold and absent, even though he was with me, his hands never left his phone. He moved from receiving one call to the other. My idea of living a childhood love story that became an eternal love story gradually faded into a fairy tale, a tale that wasn't real, just mere fantasy. At first I thought Tobi was cheating on me. So I kept on complaining. But the more I complained, the more we drifted apart. We lived like strangers in the same house. The only time he remembered I was his wife was when he wanted pleasure. To me, it wasn't pleasure, it was torture. He did it just for satisfaction, showing no emotions or concern for my needs. Slowly, I became a shadow of myself, living in bondage of my untamed decision and desire. Don't get me wrong, food and money was not a problem, but my idea of marriage was not to live in bondage. Even though Tobi was absent in my life as a husband, he was jealous. Immediately after we got married, he stopped me from working and making my own money, claiming that he wanted me to glow for him. That he was equal to the task of taking care of me. I stupidly obliged, and that was how I turned into a miserable housewife, who sat at home all day doing nothing. I missed how my life used to be, and any time I brought up the idea of working again, Tobi would shut me up, claiming that I only wanted to work because I wanted to cheat on him. Not knowing who to open up to, I let everything slide. My family, I couldn't speak with them, because I had neglected their advice on several occasions. First, they had advised me not to marry him, but I disobeyed them and went on to marry him, thinking I was getting married to the absolute best. Secondly, after noticing that I had quit my job and it was because Tobi requested it, they told me of the danger I was signing up for, but I neglected them again. It turned out that they were right all along, but out of shame I refused to contact them. However, I braced up and embraced the path I had chosen for myself until one day, Tobi told me that he would be traveling after making one of his numerous unending coded calls on his phone. I will be traveling and won't return until after a month, he said, and dashed off the door hurriedly as if he would miss his flight in the next 2 minutes. Immediately he left, my inquisitiveness got the best of me. Maybe I should have just minded my business like I had always done. But the urge to know what kind of business my husband does pulled me to his wardrobe. Why should I be a wife and not know the kind of job my husband does? I queried myself as I began to search through his stuff. Apart from treating me poorly, Tobi was secretive about the kind of business he did. His favorite words whenever I asked about his kind of business was, "I provide for you, so mind your business." After 30 minutes of searching through his stuff, I discovered a document. In it, I saw recorded transactions of deals. My mouth was left agape at my discovery. My husband, Tobi, was a drug baron. My world crashed right in front of me. I was married to a criminal. That wasn't what I signed up for. The information was too much for me to bear, and I searched for who to confide in, and the only person that popped up in my mind was Deji, since I was so ashamed of talking with my family. I didn't know what I was thinking. My hands trembled as I typed his digits. Guilt and betrayal suffocating the air out of my nostrils as my heart beat loudly. On the other hand, the phone rang, and without wasting time, Deji answered as if he had been expecting my call. I paused for some minutes. Words abandoned me as I struggled to say his name. I mumbled, gathering courage as I spoke further. "I'm sorry, Deji. I'm sorry for betraying you, for not waiting longer. But before I could complete the word, Deji cut in. "Don't be so mad on yourself," he said, his voice full of emotions, as if trying to give out information about what really happened to him. "I should have found a way to contact you." He added, "We were deep into our reconciliation when I opened up to Deji. I have something to tell you, Deji. Please don't tell anyone yet. You are the only person I can think of to talk with right now," she said, and with an emotional, upset tone she added, "I think I married a criminal. I think my husband is into drug dealing," I stuttered, but before I could realize it, I felt a firm hand drag me forcefully from behind. "Who are you with on the phone?" his voice echoed. "Nobody," I responded while not ending the call. I was surprised to see my husband standing there in our room. I could see the fury in his eyes, but I too was headstrong. "Who are you talking with?" he asked again. This time more demanding and intense, but I refused to give him a name. And so he gave me a blazing hot slap, and in my attempt to run away from him, I pushed past him trying to escape, but before I could get to the door, his hands got hold of me and pulled me backwards, immediately letting me go to hit my head on the glass table, and I blacked out. After a few minutes, I became two, with blood streaming down the head of my main body. I struggled to become one body again, but it was too late. I was dead. The one who I thought would be my forever, whom I had always loved, became my killer. On realizing what he had done, Tobi took his important documents and fled the country, leaving my body to either rot or be found and buried by my family. In my regret, I wished I had listened to my parents. I wish I had let the old love die forever instead of rekindling it. I shouldn't have judged his character based on childhood fantasies, because people do change. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed the story. Like, comment and subscribe for more amazing stories.